Hi, everyone. It's Joe Veneri, the host of Fitt Insider, the show where I talk with the entrepreneurs, executives, and investors who are redefining the business of fitness and wellness. Today, I'm joined by Rishi Mandal. Rishi is the co-founder and CEO of Future, a digital personal training service that connects users with human coaches to create custom workouts. In today's episode, Rishi and I talked about the power of high-touch personal coaching, Future's commitment to retention, and creating a constellation of experts in your life. Let's get into it. Hi, Rishi. Welcome to Fitt Insider. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat and just kicking things off, jumping right into it. Can you tell us about what you're working on at Future?
Sure. We designed Future to allow the busiest of people to maintain extremely healthy lives. And really the way, the nuts and bolts of how it works is we connect you one-to-one with a world-class coach who then trains you remotely using our app. We send you an Apple Watch. And so even if your coach is 100 or 1,000 miles away from you, they tell you what to do every week in detail, and our app will guide you through that. They can see if you're doing it or not, which is where the rubber meets the road a lot of the time. So we send you a device to wear on your wrist, and in great detail, your coach can see. And then they're connected to you kind of 24/7 over text message. And, what Future is it's not some, pre-established workout plans and then, someone to answer questions. It's actually an extremely high touch service. And so you have someone who talks to you every single day, who's reminding you to get workouts in, following up with feedback, and kind of just generally checking in and there for you. So that's kind of what it is in a nutshell, a remote coach. And the idea is that, today, in today's day and age, having one fixed routine in your life is kind of a fallacy, right? People travel a lot, things are busy week to week, there's a lot of change. So to have somebody who kind of floats with you and can design things for wherever and whenever is a great advantage. So that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. And just digging into some of that, you talk about, creating workout plans for the busiest of people, having the flexibility in your schedule, and being able to work with that personalized coach one-on-one. How did you develop this idea and thinking, it's not so much the workout plan, it's the combination of the flexibility, the coaching, and all those things going into the Future package?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's a great question. And, in some ways what we did is we've, landed on the most operationally complex version of any sort of, fitness idea. But the way we approached it was we were seeing just the broad systemic challenges in health, right? And, we probably all know this, but we spend, nearly $4 trillion on healthcare every year in this country, which is astounding. It's 20% of our GDP. And yet we have very unremarkable outcomes, right? 70% of Americans are obese and overweight. Most of us live with chronic conditions. 80% of us will die of one of those. And, the observation we really started with was, there are 5 things that you're going to do on a daily basis in your life that will end up having this huge impact on how long you live and how great those years are. And those 5 things are how you move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you deal with stress or mental health, and, for a lot of people, whether or not you take your meds, your medication. And those 5 little seemingly small decisions we make on a day-to-day basis, they add up in an obvious way. But what we found fascinating was that for your average person in this country, and actually I would say for 99% of people in this country, all 5 of those things, how you move, eat, sleep, deal with stress, or if you take your meds, all 5 of those things are completely unmanaged. Meaning every single man and woman is out there trying to reinvent solutions for themselves. They're, searching, they're Googling for answers. They are taping together solutions. And when we looked at people who are extremely successful in maintaining healthy lives, call it, as a simple example, professional athletes, or, high-level Olympians, people like that, they don't actually try to take on the challenge of managing every single individual aspect of their health. They all do this very consistent thing, which is they build a constellation of people around them, a constellation of experts around them to manage their health for them. So it's very common to have, if you're an athlete or if you're, someone who has maintained healthy behaviors for a long time, to have a personal trainer or a strength coach take care of your fitness needs. It's very common to have a personal chef who just stocks your fridge with 12 meals a week or whatever, and to have a therapist who comes to you, and on and on. And so the vision of the company was, how do we solve these problems for people? And if you look at your average person today in our country, on average, this person is very overloaded, right? They're working a job or two, and they either have a family or a partner, or they're dating, which are very emotionally draining experiences. They have social obligations, let alone they should want some downtime. They have bills to pay. There's a lot on every single person's plate. And so to also ask that person, here's a bunch of charts and graphs, and now you just need to become your own personal trainer armed with all this data, is a very unreasonable thing to ask of somebody. And then that they should also be their own nutritionist, because now you need to understand how many ounces of salmon you should be eating and what's sustainable and what's not. And it's just like too much to bear. And so the very simple concept for our company, for Future, is how can we actually build that constellation of experts around normal people? And there's one primary challenge in doing that, which is it's really expensive to buy an expert's time, right? If you want to go and spend an hour with a world-class trainer or a coach, it can easily cost you $100 an hour, which is like an expensive, sort of price. And if you want to see that person, let's say 3 times a week over the course of 1 year, that's going to run you something like $15,000. The average American household doesn't spend $15,000 a year on housing, nor transportation, nor food, nor healthcare, nor utilities, nothing. And so the really fascinating thing that we found was there is this established, effective set of solutions, which is like getting a personal trainer for your fitness or a strength coach, getting a personal chef to keep you healthy and keep you accountable to that. And yet they're economically unfeasible for 99% of people. This is exactly what you want to see when you're thinking about building something, right? You're like, there's an established solution and we can't get it to enough people. And the question was, could we use technology to bridge that gap? And the way that Future accomplishes that is we, virtualize that relationship. So your coach will build bespoke workouts and workout plans for you that are guided and detailed and wonderful. But then you can go and do that on your own time and hit start and go and do it, which allows the coach to serve many more people than they could in the real world. And then we still close the loop. We give them that data, and then they can still follow up and give you feedback and all of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And really compelling. There's obviously a lot in there to unpack. And I think all the points are really well taken. Some of the things that we talk about is all the hype and spending that goes into fitness and wellness and healthcare, yet the outcomes, to your point, are, really not great. And then building that constellation of people around you to support that, kind of a couple questions come to mind out of that. One that I wanted to get to later, but I think is a good time to ask now is, when you look at the company and at least publicly, you've raised more than $10 million in funding, have some A-list investors like Kleiner Perkins. Was the big vision that you sold to them that, we're going to get everybody a fitness coach, or is it we're going to develop this technology to give them that constellation of experts, and maybe over time you can extend into different verticals beyond fitness?
Yeah. So, I would say it's a little bit closer to the latter. And, we are a very fitness-focused company, but fitness is a really fabulous slice of health to really help people with, because it is extremely frequent, right? For a lot of people, this is at least a daily, weekly activity. It's something that is high affinity, right? There's not a lot of people who are wearing the shirt of their therapist, for example, but when it comes to fitness brands, people are rocking a lot of that stuff. So it's frequent, it's high affinity, it's empirically measurable from afar. So if we wanted to virtualize this expert in your life, it's really hard to see if you're doing some of these activities on a day-to-day basis. But when it comes to fitness, we can strap something to you and get a really good sense of it. And so, for those various reasons, and I'm an athlete by background as well, and I benefited from a lifetime of coaching and strength training and so on and so forth. Given all of that, we felt like this was really the ideal place to go and build relationships with people. And it's actually kind of interesting that you asked kind of just about the broader vision. So the broader vision has been exactly what you identified, which is, when we go look at the most successful people, they have rich relationships with extreme experts in their life who go and manage their day-to-day health, but also enrich them with the conversations they have. Yeah. So the goal had been to build a constellation of experts around you, and fitness being a really great starting point. What we found is when we put a world-class coach in your life, somebody to tell you, what to do, someone who can float with you as you have injuries, as circumstances change, or traveling, and who can constantly adapt, it creates this closeness of contact. You become in the habit of texting this person multiple times a day. So our average customer is trading 4 text messages every single day with their customer. It's about 50-50 traffic. So they're sending to, receiving to every single day. And that means we're building these meaningful two-way relationships with our customers. And at first, what they're talking about is, fitness things. How do I get a little bit more optimization out of my workout routine, or I didn't like that particular exercise. But very quickly, within a month, what we see is 80% of our customers end up asking their coach, hey, I'm not eating great. Can you help me with that? Right? 80% end up proactively asking their coach for help with their diet. 50% volunteer to their coach, hey, I'm not sleeping great. Can you help me with that? And 40% disclose to us that they're feeling stressed out. And so now this coach, what ends up happening is, you might talk to your doctor about your health 1 or 2 or maybe 3 times a year as a normal person. You talk to your coach on Future 1,500 times a year. And so we create this kind of closeness of contact and sort of become your front door to just kind of questions about health writ large. And so while we are very focused on fitness to start, the vision all along had been, how can we actually become a core part of your life and then help you with more and more aspects of your health? Does that make sense?
It makes a ton of sense. It's super smart. And I think the way that you're even able to quantify some of those things in terms of building the relationship, the interactions, the questions that are being asked naturally leads to, what's happening now is you're seeing a lot of, whether it's fitness providers or even on the healthcare side, trying to back into this relationship where you're starting with the relationship and saying, we're going to build from here, and then potentially start to introduce other spokes of that wheel going forward.
Right. You're exactly right. And, a lot of well-meaning, awesome, interesting providers and payers in healthcare is exactly what you said, is you're trying to back into this, which is they want to offer closeness of contact. But there's a limited number of people in this world who want to talk to, a registered nurse every day, right? It's like a sort of an unnatural relationship, or a doctor-patient relationship has a lot of kind of loaded with a lot of baggage. Whereas when we can give you a charismatic, interesting coach, someone who might have life experiences that are appealing to you. All of our coaches come from pro sports or D1 athletics, which means they have very interesting backgrounds. Some are otherwise, very elite. They come from the great fitness studios of the country. And when we can personality match you with someone who has great life experiences and can kind of meet you at your level in terms of discourse and personality, then that opens up a lot. People are really willing to engage with this person. And text messages are a really good modality. People are really comfortable, sending emojis and shooting photos over. And so you build these really frequent rich relationships.
Across the kind of fitness landscape, when you think about the digital solutions, streaming and on demand, even in the retail boutique landscape as well, they talk a lot about, the instructor, the talent, and that person, in your case, the coach and the personality. How are you kind of protecting against, if that coach leaves, does that mean that user is going to leave, or is it just the medium and the platform that they're attracted to as well?
Yeah. So, there's a couple of things inside of that. So one, a discussion of just kind of like coach talent and what do we look for? And I would say a lot of what the world of fitness looks for in coaches is celebrity, right? Someone who is high energy, charismatic, good looking, all the things that you would want in a really elevated kind of celebrity fitness instructor. And what's different about Future is we're not actually really seeking celebrity per se. We're seeking diversity. And what I mean by that is if you have, let's say, 1 million or 100 million people spread across this country who all need a coach, they are going to need very different types of people in their lives. Now, everybody has to be certified and, know what they're doing from just kind of the principles of exercise and what's safe. But beyond that, what we actually want is we want a great diversity of introverts and extroverts, of people with different life experiences. And so a lot of what we seek is actually pretty different than what I think a lot of the industry goes after, which are, sort of the right type of personality go lead a group class. What we're looking for is to build intimacy. And to do that, we actually just need to build a big diversity of talent. So number one, on the trainer talent, we don't find ourselves running into a lot of other fitness companies, because what we're doing is we're looking for excellence, and then people who want to have, big impact, bigger than they could have in the real world, coaching 10 or 12 athletes or, some clients in a physical gym. When they use our platform, they can reach a lot more people, but still do it intimately. And what was the second part of that question you had?
Thinking about if, you do have that match between the user and the coach,
right?
And how do you protect against like turnover, or if the coach leaves, things like that going?
Yeah. I mean, as a young company, we haven't actually seen a lot of this. And the reason is, for our coaches, it would be really hard to engage with all of these people across the country, outside of the context of what Future is doing, which is analyzing incoming messages for context and building, a rich understanding of each customer and parsing the workout information for, interesting clues and things to follow up on. So we're giving them a lot of leverage. So it would be hard to sort of just kind of disappear and do that in a different way. However, you're right. What we do is we build really solid, intimate connections from one person to another longitudinally. And it's something that we have to be thoughtful of. So, whenever we do have a coach, we had a coach who went on to become a professional volleyball player. And she actually still coaches some people on the platform, but she certainly couldn't take on the same volume as when she was focused on it. And so what you have to do is you have to do really graceful kind of handoffs and say, hey, I actually, as your coach, I've thought about this and I've found a coach who I think would be an ideal fit for you. I've also created I've gone through great lengths to create a handoff where they can understand the challenges you have and the rhythm of your life. And then we introduce that coach, and that has so far been a really great playbook for us. But you're right. We're actually in some ways building these really intense one-to-one relationships. And then if we ever have to, evolve beyond that, it's something that is still developing for us.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I think that handoff is a smart part in the process for sure.
Yeah. And ultimately what we do is we model a lot after what happens in the real world. Mm-hmm. There is a whole universe of people who have had personal trainers and love them and use them for years and decades. And, think about ball players who stick with the same coach for a long time. And, then eventually they get to know each other. They invite each other to each other's weddings. All of that intimacy gets built. And then you do see players move from one program to another where they have that change. And oftentimes these two strength coaches will get together, have a chat, do a handoff. And now you can pick up where you left off. And so in the best case scenario, we can replicate what already happens in the real world.
Yeah. And kind of circling back to the question around the vision and kind of how big this can be, who is the target audience at this point? How do you think about, the addressable market as you think of, scale and the opportunity itself?
Yeah. So, Future, at the end of the day, what we are doing is we are helping people, lead active lives without having to think about them. And so when we put a coach in your life, there's sort of three things that your coach is able to do for you. Number one is they bring expertise to the table so they can tell you what to do so you don't have to think about it. And really what's happening there is we're trying to lower your cognitive overhead. Number two, with having a real person one-to-one in the loop, we drive accountability or motivation in a way that I've not seen any other sort of, digital solution do. Chat bots and group accountability, things like that are much more diffuse than one-to-one relationships. So they can tell you what to do. They keep you accountable. And then the third thing that your coach does for you is they take the time to get to know you, which is really where you build that closeness of contact. They ask you questions outside of the realm of fitness. It's something that I haven't seen a lot of fitness companies do. We carve out time in every coach's schedule to think about you personally outside of your fitness. And so number one, we really focus down on that. And then, I think when we look at who is currently using the product and successful, or who in theory could use the product and successful, what we find is that these are people whose primary objection to leading really great, healthy lives that they want to lead is that they're too busy. And that's kind of what I said at the top, which is we really enable the busiest people to be extremely successful in this way. And what I mean by that is, when you are, when you're taxed with work and family at home or friends and social obligations, et cetera, there's not a lot of time for you to figure out what you should be doing. So people cobble together routines, right? And so they'll say, okay, every single Tuesday, I'm going to go to this class at this time in this place. But what happens is then when your meeting runs an hour late, you're totally screwed because you don't have a backup plan. And so what we found, the most successful person on our platform is someone who's busy, but it cuts across a lot of different demographics. And so on Future, our customers are in all 50 states. They're 50-50 men and women. So it's kind of a good representative sample that way. it's a bell curve of demographics between 25 to 45 years old. So pretty much spread across that spectrum. And the characterization we would make of these people is that they are busy working professionals, but they are split across being novices and being intermediate or advanced kind of with their fitness. So I think about 30% of our customers have no established workout history, no equipment. They work out at home, and we can still give them, great workouts and things that they can do at home with body weight or minimal equipment. About 60 to 70% have some established workout history. They might be in a gym or sometimes doing boutique classes. Maybe we work in what they're doing with at-home fitness equipment that's a little more advanced. And it works equally well across both, which has been a really great finding for us. And then in terms of, what else can I say about, these people? I would say probably 60%, I think I'm actually looking here, 60% of them are located in major metros and big cities, and then 40% are outside of that. So we do see a pretty good diversity of people using the product. And so if I were to summarize who we're after, we're really after people who are busy working professionals. And that creates a big kind of slice of people for us to go after.
To this point, whether it's from the consumer or from investors as you're going out to talk about what you're doing, have you gotten pushback on the price? I think it's $150 a month, which, when you think about it in the scheme of things in terms of what you're willing to pay for your health to establish a healthy routine, doesn't seem like an exorbitant price, but to some could have sticker shock. Is there pushback on that, and how do you maneuver that?
Yeah, it's a great question. Ultimately, the short answer is $150 a month app is an outrageous thing that no one would ever buy, right? So instead, the way we discuss what we do with our customer is we really explain to them that what they're paying for is somebody's time. If you're so lucky as to run a company like you do and you have employees, you don't think of the paycheck you pay those people as a subscription. You think of that as a valuable person whose time you compensate for. Same for if you have, a housekeeper or someone who in your life is helping you, an assistant, someone helping you take care of things. And so we do the same here. And we would tell you, if we pair you with a coach. For example, we have a coach in LA. His name is Parker. Parker's a former Barry's boot camp instructor. He's a professional hip hop dancer. He's currently in the GMC commercial. He's really, really well credentialed and certified. And to have Parker in your life 24/7, helping build plans every week, keep you accountable, drive this behavior change, it costs you $5 a day or, $150 a month. It's been a very understandable conversation we've had with customers about it. That said, of course, the goal for any company is over time to become more efficient. And then we can have that decision point of, do we want a lower price point or expand margin, or what do we want to do there? And so today at $150 a month, if you think about, you want to go to a boutique fitness class at $30 a session, and you want to do that, 3 times a week, that's $90 a week, and $360 a month. This is in the realm of what people are spending on fitness, but it is explained as really it's this one person in your life who's there for you, who's going to be working day and night to keep you on track. And that's the way we've really found success in explaining it to our customers. And and I think a little bit about just how to think about starting with a price point is we wanted to pick a price point that allowed us to actually deliver an incredible service, right? I think we have seen some people in the history over the last decade or so really play around with remote coaching. And when people try to do it at a really low price point, I'm just throwing out an idea like a $20 a month or something, you effectively get what you pay for, right? You get sort of unremarkable coach or some random person who is somewhat responsive, which is not that helpful. And what we've tried to do is build a service that gives you an incredible expert in your life. The coach that I have, his name is Curtis on Future, was a former strength coach for the Golden State Warriors and Chicago Bulls. And as a basketball fan, I'm thrilled to have someone like that in my life. In order to have someone like Curtis in my life, and to have that person be high touch, like I said, we're exchanging 4 text messages a day. Our average response time to a customer's text is 16 minutes. We are on it. In order to deliver that kind of service, we had to pick a price point that made sense for the company. And we've just been really happy to find that customers are willing to do that when we explain to them that you're paying for someone's time, someone interesting, their time.
It's an interesting dance, right? Because at one end, like you mentioned, you want it to be a premium service because it is a premium service. You're getting a human. It is high touch. They are experts. But on the other side of it, it's also, as humans, we have irrational spending habits and the way that we think through things. It's,
Right.
we don't want to spend $150 a month on this, but the other things that we do spend money on that maybe we don't question, or that gym membership that we do have that we don't even go to the gym, but we keep the membership anyway. It's
right.
Rationalizing that is difficult at times.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. The $5 you spend a day on, I don't know, your coffee or something feels, smaller than a $150 a month subscription. And so, there's a lot of work there's a lot of games you can play with pricing, right? One of the interesting things about Future is that we don't sell ahead 3 months or 12 months at a time. Future is something we ask our members to renew monthly. We ask you to pay $150, and then we tell you every single month that we're charging that to you. We ask you to renew monthly. And the reason we chose to do it that way was so we could get a lot of signal. And, we are a young company. The company's about 2 years old. So we could get a lot of signal of, are we actually being helpful to people, right? It would have been very easy to charge some lower price with venture dollars to not remind you that we're charging you that price and sort of skate by, sell you 12 months in advance and say, here's what our retention is. It's awesome. Instead, we've taken the other route initially as we've built this company out to really understand, do we have something valuable? So we charge, this is crazy. We charge $150 a month. Before your first or your second charge after you've signed up, we remind you 5 days in advance, hey, we're about to charge you. Like, you should cancel if you're not finding value out of this. We literally say that to our customers. And then every single month after that, when we charge you, we remind you. And what we've seen is, and I can say this with confidence, is we have the best retention of any fitness product I've ever seen. People who use Future stick with it for the long haul. There are some characteristic curves of churn in the fitness industry, and Future looks unlike any of that. And we haven't even gotten into the space where you play games by selling a year in advance or 3 months, and we haven't done any of that. And so we're encouraged by seeing that. And it's not driven by anything mysterious. It's when we put a real person in your life, they push you, they keep you accountable, they keep you on track. And on the margins, you see better and better adherence and results, and then satisfaction, and it kind of drives from there.
Yeah, I'd like to go a little bit deeper there because I've kind of been involved in the fitness industry from a couple of different sides. Owned a 12,000 square foot facility, did some online coaching, and now developed content in it and works with some other companies in the space. And of course, you see the attrition and retention and churn is the biggest issue. And, I don't have a horse in the race in terms of, you hear, is the Netflix of fitness going to end the boutiques? Are boutiques going to be able to survive? Is there a bubble? I think there will continue to be options for everybody. But the thing that I'm most excited about is what you're talking about, where it's like we ask people to renew every month because it is about results and it is about retention. How are you communicating that? Obviously, the members have what they're feeling and whether or not they're getting results. But in terms of tracking their progress, giving them feedback, setting goals for them, how are you, working on retention on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have a disappointingly simple answer for you, which is we put someone in their life who cares about them, right? Like, that's a pretty simple thing. But what I will tell you is we don't use a lot of the traditional tropes. So we don't do a lot of like unlocking things or, hitting arbitrary milestones. What we do is we put a person in your life who's like, you have a FaceTime call up front with your coach, and that person looks at you and they're like, okay, what are you trying to get out of your fitness journey? And I'm here to hold you accountable to doing that. And what's really interesting about building a company like Future is the product experience for the customer is so individual, right? To one customer, running a mile for the first time, like, that is a huge accomplishment. And to another customer who's an ultra marathoner, it's a joke if we sent you a notification, hey, you ran a mile, great job, right? Because you're used to doing lots and lots of miles. And so what we do, and this is really kind of an interesting product kind of process, is we collect a ton of data on our customer. We're analyzing behaviors and seeing where they're setting PRs and hitting milestones. And we don't send any of that to the customer. We send it to the coach. And then the coach has the discretion to then either pass that along to the customer, make a comment, or suppress it, right? And that points to just the broader, like the answer to your question, which is retention is driven by the coach being able to hold in their head or in their tool set a lot of context about what you would value, what you're doing, and are we on track? And then using their words, the tools that we've given them to, adjust your plan accordingly and be proactive in doing that. And that's what really drives our retention is that somebody proactively identifies, hey man, you're not on track. So I've come up with an entirely new plan to get you on track. Or, hey, you may not realize it, but you've actually come really far. I want to point that out to you. And here's where we're going to go next. And so that's the primary driver of retention, is that we have a person who's empowered to spot trends for you or prevent, adverse, events or fall off. And we don't do a lot of other things in the product to try to retain you, quote unquote. Like I said, almost everything we do in the product is designed to let you opt out pretty easily. And so we're reminding you that we charge you. We are checking in at 10 weeks and 20 weeks and, along your journey to say, hey, are you still satisfied? Is this hitting your expectations? And every time we've asked our customers, we've gotten great results back. Our NPS last time we measured it was 87, which is an outrageous number. So outrageous, I thought we were doing something wrong. But as we dug into it, it's like 90% of these people are promoters because they now have a person in their life who cares and drives that aspect of it.
You kind of spoke a little bit about the unlocking features, and that obviously brings to mind like the gamification of fitness and these milestones that you have to hit that unlock things, and the hope is that that's going to elicit the behavior change and retention over time. Do you think what you're finding at Future is just a different path, or do you think it's maybe that gamification thing doesn't work? It's really the high touch human interaction that is the thing that's going to drive meaningful change?
Well, I wouldn't say that it doesn't work, actually. When smartly applied, these things can be effective. Actually, the first job I was in, I started my career out in science and physics, and then eventually left a little over a decade ago, almost 15 years ago, to work in tech. And the first company that we built, games. And so I've been able to observe firsthand the power of incentives and how people respond to them. And you can actually spur behaviors using incentives. However, those are very short-term effects, right? And so you can only for so long have somebody want to progress through a kind of a contrived matrix of reward before it becomes old. But if you're smart and if you're lucky, if those short-term gamification tactics can lead to a customer to a place where they're starting to then inherently see results and feel great and feel bought in, then it has bridged you to that place, and that's wonderful. What we found is it's that the variety of people in this world, it's that two people who are both founders of a startup in New York City have completely distinct fitness journeys, that you couldn't design one incentive ladder to truly appeal to both of them. You couldn't design one workout that's going to work exactly for those two people and the issues they have and the injury history and so on and so forth. And so the tack that we have taken is, instead of kind of trying to get that short-term incentive to get you past the hump, let's just really design around you. And let's use this relationship that you have with someone as really the sticking point, and for that person to then ferry you to the place that you eventually start to feel results and feel great. And then you sort of get sort of addicted to it in long term, just for the good outcomes. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying that like there's a single path. We've just taken a specific one because we felt like for every single person, it's quite a distinct journey of what they're going to respond to, and what dollar amounts might be motivating, or what objections they have in terms of getting exercise. And so we just designed a pretty complicated system to accommodate that.
Right. And I think we're really talking about a couple of different paths. One being the expert, human, high touch, down the path of a personal trainer, but having that expert in your life. Certainly the gamification exists, and building those incentives in to keep people participating long-term and hopefully make that change and it be a lasting one. And another one that comes up a lot, especially when you talk about the fitness space, is community. Boutique fitness classes build community, and we want that tribe, mentality. And I think this is something that I think is interesting as we get into the digital and streaming and connected hardware, that yes, there are components of community, but maybe the community isn't part of the fitness experience for everybody. Just how do you think about, community as it relates to fitness and also what you're doing at Future?
Yeah, I mean, community is powerful, right? And I actually think what's really powerful, so sometimes it's a shortcut to say community is powerful. What's really powerful is for us in our lives to have a mix of intimacy and community, right? So just imagine you and your social life. If you only had surface deep relationships with many, many people, but no one who was close to you, that's unfulfilling in some ways, right? And on the flip side, if you only ever had one friend who you had any connection with and nobody else, that's kind of unfulfilling and isolating in a different way. And so I think what humans crave is a mix of intimacy and community. And I think where Future sees itself fitting into that is intimacy is a really precious commodity in this day and age. It's really hard to come by. Somebody, let's say around your health, who actually knows you and cares and gets to know you, right? Because your primary care physician, the average person's visit with their primary care physician is 15 minutes or 12 minutes. There's actually for most people, there's not somebody who knows them, knows the shape of their life and cares about their health. The intimacy is sort of missing. And so we felt like when we've seen people have that, it's really powerful. When you watch the kind of relationship people build with their personal trainer or other experts in their life, it's really enriching and successful. We've decided to really think about how do we replicate that when that person is not then next to you? How do we really invest in that? But we do think it's really important to have community. And so the interesting thing to know about Future is we actually don't care where or how you work out. Many of our customers go to boutique fitness classes. And if you already do that, if you love going to a boot camp class twice a week, your coach would say, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing that. Keep doing that. But maybe we should build a little bit of strength work or a little bit of postural stuff where you have that ankle injury. We should do something for that on the other couple of days in the week. And so a lot of our customers, will use an at-home piece of equipment that they're logging into and they can see other people working out, or will go to classes or do work out in a gym in the real world where they see people. And we're very supportive of that. In fact, people are quite successful when they have mixed modalities like that. And this coach, the role of our coach is just to make sure you actually do it. And on a given day when you can't make it to that boutique class, they'll give you something you can do for 10 minutes at home so that you still have got something in and you're progressing forward. But on the point of community, it would have been really cheap for us to just layer on, on this really cool service. Oh, here's also, a Facebook group. And now everyone can sort of just see each other. And that's not the type of community that we, envision. I think what we envision for people is true groups of affinity. If you're going to work out at a CrossFit gym or go to a boutique fitness class, and those should continue to exist. We should help you show up more often to those and keep you accountable to it. And what we would complement that with is with intimacy, with someone who knows you and cares and says, hey, by the way, how did that meeting go today that you were so nervous about? Still going to have time to get a workout in afterwards. And we build intimacy to complement that community.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting to kind of make that decision and kind of take that stance that, we're not going to layer on, like you said, a lot of what you see is there's a leaderboard or there's a Facebook group or there's a, some type of something that is community, where in this case, maybe your contribution to community is, yes, the intimacy, but also time to be able to go to that, social gathering that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to go to because you were in the gym.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great point.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the conscious trade-offs. When you're building a young company, you have to identify what is the most unique thing about my company and how do I emphasize that before I start building all the other bells and whistles that you can imagine building. And for this company, amongst the world of digital solutions out there, it's pretty rare to have one that actually puts one-to-one relationship in your life. And so that's why we've really focused on developing and emphasizing that over building the wide set of complements to it.
That's great. Yeah. And just wrapping things up, and we'll actually get you out of here on this, thinking about what's next and what you're working on at Future. What's on the horizon, maybe in the near term? What are you excited about and working towards?
So a handful of things. Number one, we are building a bunch of really interesting kind of deep technical stuff. So like I said, we put a we put an Apple Watch on our customer's wrist so that we get a GPS sensor, a PPG heart rate sensor. We have a gyroscope and accelerometer, all of that on your wrist. And, historically what we've done is we've just used that data to tell your coach, what we think you did or didn't do or did well. And actually what we're going to be moving towards pretty soon is exposing that to the customer as well, so that we can count reps for you. We can do all of these kind of interesting things like giving some amount of feedback on, are you being consistent or not in your reps and form and things like that. So that all is kind of developing and something that we want to be rolling out soon. We are doing a lot of stuff. Most 80% of our product that we build is behind the scenes. It's things that empower our coaches. And one of the things that we have to do is really augment our coaches' memories. Because when you work out with, or you kind of service 1 to 2 to 10 to 20 customers or clients as a trainer, it's pretty easy to remember a lot of the details about those people. But as soon as you're working with 100 people, it does, and they're all across different time zones, it does become really complex to remember the nuances of every single person's situation and their preferences and what's going on right now. And so we've built like a pretty intricate CRM that we've continually layered on more and more kind of feature set to allow a coach to drop into a conversation with a client and very quickly come up to speed on like the last thing we talked about, the workout I built for you. What did I expect you to do versus what you actually did? What else is going on in this person's life? So that's kind of exciting and something that's going to be coming up soon. And then one of the things that I just see happening right now, I'm in our office here and I can see a couple of people talking about, is just how do we then broaden the number of aspects of health that we can help you with? And so how do we start to ladder up a bit as we help people with their fitness journey? Becomes a very logical conversation. Like I said, 80% of people reach out to us and say, hey, how can I eat better? And what we don't want to do at Future is just dump a bunch of content and learning onto your plates and now you have to wade through it. We have some really kind of interesting, exciting takes on how that might look for a service like ours that's human-based and solutions-oriented. And so something like that we're testing soon and will be coming out hopefully in 2020.
Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff. So no shortage of work to be done. Even more grateful for you taking a few minutes to join us today. Where can people learn more about Future?
Check us out, www.future.fit. We, can get you paired with the coach quickly and throw a welcome kit in the mail, which has an Apple Watch and a water bottle, and you get started very fast. So definitely check us out. If you're busy, it's the best solution I've seen out there. I run a company. I have 2 kids, one of whom is 3 weeks old, and yet I'm able to sustain something of a workout regimen. And the only reason is my coach is able to kind of float up and down with me as my time gets more or less constrained. So definitely a thing worth checking out. Joe, appreciate you having us on, and let us know if we can share any more information about what we're doing.
Yeah, looking forward to jamming more, and I just appreciate you making time. So thanks a lot.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening to today's episode. For more from Fitt Insider, visit insider.fit.co and subscribe to our weekly newsletter for insights and analysis on the business of fitness and wellness. Then go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. See you next time.